Hello, my name is Steve, and I was clearing out some paperwork a few days ago, and I found this brochure of a Suzuki GS1000 S model, and it brought back some memories of my motorcycling past, and it makes you think that you wished you'd kept your old bikes. I mean, not based on the value or anything like that, but for nostalgic reasons, and how these bikes would perform in their day. The story behind this bike was I was riding with a bunch of friends along the Brighton seafront, as we used to every other evening, one summer in 1980. And my bike was a Honda CB550, the F series, that's the 4x1 version, and a friend showed up on his new GS750, and I thought there was nothing more attractive. The engine, I thought, was beautifully designed. I think it was a design that was by Suzuki, but supported by Kawasaki company, even though they were the main competitors of the famous Japanese 4. But that was a story. I never had that confirmed. But anyway, it was a beautiful bike, and I never forgot, seeing that bike and admiring it. As time went on, only about a year, I found myself working overseas. I work in the aviation industry, and I was working in the UAE, a place called Dubai. It's much different in 1980 than it is today. A lot more basic in those days and a lot more desert, but nonetheless I think it was much better than it is today. I think it's turned into the plastic town of the world at the moment, and a rather odd place, but in those days it was certainly fantastic fun. A lot fewer expatriates, and fun was had all around. And on the weekends we'd go water skiing at a place called Ras Al Khaimah. The outboard engine on this boat was a 4-cylinder 2-stroke, and it used to eat spark plugs, so it was my turn on this weekend to go and buy the plugs from a Suzuki dealer, as it was a Suzuki outboard. So I went down to the Suzuki dealer, and I didn't really sell motorcycles. It was more lightweight commercial vehicles, cars, and loads and loads of outboards, because it was more of a marine establishment. And they didn't only sell Suzuki and stuff, they sold just about everything. And I'm walking into the showroom to buy these spark plugs. I saw this bike, and it's a GS1000S, but it's different to the S models that I'd seen in other brochures being sold in the UK and I believe the US. That's where they had an instrument cowling with a clock in the middle and a few other things, and I used to think that was too bulbous and ugly. But when I saw this model in the flesh, I just thought I have to have it. Had the gold alloys, or the gold coloured alloys anyway, slotted discs, a whole bunch of features that were not on the other UK versions at the time. And I said to the guy in there, I said, how much? And he said 9,000 dirhams. Now the dirham was about 10 to the pound in them days, so we're talking £100. Sorry, £900. And I said, done. I had some money on me. I paid a deposit, and was going to pick the bike up after the weekend. And the weekends were Thursday afternoon, Friday, and then their Monday was the Saturday. So Saturday morning I was back round there, having raided my Bank of the Middle East bank account with the rest of the dirhams, and bought it. And at that point he just wheeled it out of the shop. I checked the oil and started the engine and roared off into the sunset, as you do when you're in Dubai. No sooner had I done that when I was chased by Dubai police, and they confiscated the bike for not having a registration plate. See, the dealers don't do the registration. It's your responsibility to take it home somehow and get the bike registered and put the plate on. But unfortunately they weren't going to hear anything, so they took the bike away from me. I managed to get it back a few days later after registering it without the motorcycle, and went to the police station, where I found it in a vehicle pound waiting to be shipped off to, I don't know where, Pakistan or Africa or somewhere. And I persuaded the guy to let me have it, and he said, okay, just this once. So I kept my new motorcycle. In Dubai it's far too hot to ride a bike in the summer, so it was a winter steed, but the roads were expanding, and the run up to Abu Dhabi and up the coast roads were fantastic, and I have a few pictures of those days, not as many as I would like to, and there's certainly no movies because things like GoPros and all that weren't around in them days. It was a Super 8 or something, which is far too much to take on a motorcycle. Anyway, and there she is, a beautiful machine. It was in exactly those colours. It looks exactly like that. The only thing it didn't have, which is in the picture, it didn't have these metal contraptions on the suppressor caps. They were nice Bakelite plastic looking things with a rubber shaped grommet at the end, which is far more attractive. So, but apart from that, this is the bike. Square indicators. The UK market had the round ones. I think the paint design was a lot better than the roundish, bulbous looking design that they had. I think it was in red or blue in the UK, but a very similar blue all the same. And the mud guard was different, and a few other things, and it had these little mirrors on the fairing, which I think the UK ones, they had the moulding, but they were blanked off. And excuse me, but they had these mirrors coming out of the handlebars, like a little chromium stalk with a chromed or steel mirror sitting out of there. So I thought they looked not as good. So there it was. Another massive feature with this bike was the fact that the electronic ignition came as standard. And cylinders 1 and 4 were on the back plate, cylinders 2 and 3 were on a little adjustable plate, because it had a system called a wasted spark. So you'd you'd the ability to use 2 coils without a distributor or anything. And indeed the contact breaker types did the same, but with contact breaker points, you're going out of tune as soon as you ride the thing, because they start wearing and pitting. Whereas electronic ignition was a new thing for a motorcycle in them days, and I felt that I was riding the Rolls Royce of all motorcycles. If we open up the brochure a little bit, here we have the centerfold picture, and along the top, engineering that gives you the ride of your life. Well, it was kind of, but actually it wasn't. I'll just zoom in and just I could just sit and look at that all day. Just eye candy. They don't make engines like that anymore, well, in appearance anyway. Double overhead cam, single valve though, so just 2 valves per cylinder, 1 in and 1 out. So it's a pretty basic and clunky design, but in its clunkiness it was built like a brick dunny, and no kidding. They were a good engine. The whole of the crankshaft was supported on ball bearings and needle rollers for the big ends, and so it goes on. Just having a look, if you have a look in here, I'll just zoom that in again. You notice that here hasn't got that ugly combing. Just far better looking. Oh, you notice here a little square fluid reservoir for the front brakes. The clutch was cable all the way through, and because the mirrors were on the on the fairing. These were the holes in the handlebar furniture had little grommets in them, beautifully finished off. Black handlebars. There was nothing you could do to this bike to make it look any better. And we read this off. Living up to the reputation of the famed GS series, or Cirrus, I spelt it wrong. This sporty bike not only looks good, the fairing wing has been specially designed using aerodynamic principles. As road speed increases, the wing is gradually pushed back by wind pressure to maintain front wheel stability, thus ensuring fantastic handling ability at all speeds. Well, anyone that's had the S will know that's exactly the opposite. 85, 90 miles an hour, you got the biggest tank slapper ever because of that wing. A lot of people put a damper across here, but I tried the damper and it didn't make any difference. It just made the bike feel heavier. Its brilliant performance will satisfy the most fastidious driver. Well, yes, it did. I loved driving it, and I rode it just about everywhere I could go, which wasn't a great deal of places. And of course, in the summertime, the heat just was atrocious. You know, you damage the engine. You notice also that the carburetors are, you know, the direct type. They're not constant velocities, which is fantastic. I used to hate constant velocities. I used to think they used to suck air in and there was a delay. These were direct. These were cable controlled, and with a big wheel in the middle, and all four carbs opened up simultaneously. On this left hand side you just see the little bell crank with a choke. Just super. And the gear change had a little set of bell cranks here, so a linkage system because the main footrest was slightly back. These weren't rear sets per se. They're kind of a rear set, I guess, so that your foot would reach the pedal there, which was right in line with the shaft input, the gear change shaft input. So, but it made it look good. It was a 4x2, and it had this Gatling gun arrangement of holes at the back of these short stubby exhausts. It's just a superb bike, and when it polished up beautifully. I think I mentioned the golden alloys. It had a disc on the back, which is very similar pattern to the front disc, which was slotted, not just drilled holes but slotted. That was important. I mean, I was a young lad on his motorcycle. Little things are very important. These big round chrome cam end covers. The horns are just under the tank. And you have to remove the horns to get the top half off if you're looking at your or checking your shimming, because this cover wouldn't come off without removing the horns. But you could just about wriggle it out of the small space up there. Bike weighed a ton, by the way. It was heavy to put on the stand, and but you know, that all disappeared. Electric start was in here. It was the rollerball single direction spring and cam arrangement for the engagement and disengagement. I used to hate turning these things off because the engine used to stop and it used to go backwards a bit, and it would pick up and it would grab the starter motor. So you used to get this when you turn them off, and I always thought that would be a weak point, but it never broke. It's just an inherent design. Under here you have the fuses and a few other areas that you know, to support the electrics. It goes on here, instruments at the top here. The instrument panel with speedometer, tacho and various indicators is ideally positioned for easy sighting. At night it is illuminated with a soft, dazzle-free orange glow that gave us a deluxe appearance. Well, it did. It did. I always thought that orange glow was real deluxe. It was a beautiful glow. And of course what we used to call idiot lights down the middle, very important of course. I lost a bulb in one of these, and I tried to replace it, which was a job in itself. There was a huge amount of disassembly to get to where these bulbs were. And I got the wrong one because it was too bright, so it made the whole thing look unbalanced. So I ended up replacing them all to get the same uniform illumination across the whole thing. So the frame was huge and heavy, and the welding was unsightly. I will say that the welding wasn't pretty. It was there were sticks in the welding. It looked like somebody had welded it with a stick welder and not gone off with a sanding wheel to smoothing out all the welds. So the welds looked pretty grotty. It says here the front air forks. The forks they had a little Schrader valve on top here, and you'd put about 15 or 16 or whatever it was PSI, I can't remember now, but in that one, and you do the same on the other side. And I think aftermarket suppliers used to put a tube across them both so that you could get them equalized. I bought that, but and tried the equalization thing. It leaked, didn't hold the air pressure, and it looked unsightly, so I chucked it off. It didn't work that well.